Hello everyone. Thank you all for being here today for the SRISHTI soiree. This is something new we've started where we come together to celebrate art and spark conversations. Today's focus is collecting emerging artists, stories of discovery and patronage. I'm always asked the question, right, is, to collect art, do we need to have deep knowledge? Do we need deep pockets? Do we trust our heart? Do we trust our eyes? And we have three wonderful panelists here who, through their experiences and can help us find out how to collect emerging artists. With that, I would love to introduce our wonderful panelists. I'll start with Varunika. Varunika is a very well-known artist across the world and an art historian, but she's based out of Hyderabad. She's exhibited internationally at various museums and institutions. She's going to bring in the artistic perspective to the idea of collection. Then we have Amit Kumar Jain. He's an independent art culture manager with previous experience and expertise in museum and collection management, auctions and appraisals, gallery strategies and acquisitions, as well as private collection management. So he brings in a perspective. I haven't added that he's a massive collector as well. So he brings in the perspective of a collector and a curator. Then we have Jaiveer Johal. He has come in from Chennai. He's been a keen collector of modern and contemporary Indian art, including textile art, for the past decade, and has a keen interest in the decorative arts of South India and the Deccan in particular. So thank you so much, all of you, for being here and talking to us. All three of you said that the collection is very personal. You should resonate with what you are buying. But what happens in a city where, aesthetic sensibilities are still very traditional, everything is about, making it look beautiful. So how does, how do people go about training their eye? Even if it resonates with you, you would find that, especially in a city like Hyderabad, it's still a lot of gods. That's what resonates with people. So, and I feel like sometimes you're stuck in the past, right? You're stuck 20 years back and, it's not moving forward. So to new collectors, when they come in, they find it very intimidating. When they come in and see this is not something that they are used to for their eyes. So, and it's a question to all three of you, and I'll start with you, Jaiveer.
I'm going to be very blunt. Don't be lazy. That's where you start. The reason you're stuck is because you're lazy. You're not going out. You're not going to museum shows. You're not stepping outside your comfort zone to go look at things, right? The only way to learn in art for me is to see and to read. Right, so you have to put in the work to be able to do that, right? And I always say this to friends. I said, you're all running successful businesses. Are you running your business in the same way you ran it 20 years ago? No, you didn't, right? You're innovating your business strategy, innovating practices on a daily basis. You're involving AI in your business, whatever you're doing. You're constantly innovating and moving forward, and that's why you're successful. And then why should your interiors or your art be stuck in the 1950s or 1960s, right? I mean, that is not to say I collect masters, and not anymore. I can't afford them anymore, but I did when I could, right? But I do collect a lot of contemporary. And you look, you learn, and feel free to ask for advice and then listen to your eyes. It's as simple as that. I mean, don't be lazy.
Okay, I don't know what to add to that. See, there's nothing wrong with what you're buying. Goddesses, Tanjore paintings, to each their own. What I've seen in my career, and I work a lot with collectors, is usually the change happens in the next generation. People, as I said before, people will buy art of their times. Unless you've really been trained to look at traditional arts. Like, for example, in my family, I've been looking at Ravi Vermas and all of that in terms of growing up, going through those books. So I still resonate with that. But for the collector of our times who don't know what to look at, Jaiveer has very rightly said, the only way you can learn is to train your eye by going out. I visit every show which I can in Delhi at least. And when I'm on the road as well, like today even, I've never been to State Gallery, there's a printmaking show. I said, let's go see it. Let's see what the kids are up to nowadays. The more you see, the more you will be able to differentiate between good, bad, and that's also very subjective. What is good for me is bad for you and vice versa. But, and in the end, you will understand what you want. You will make mistakes. Every collector I have known in my life has made a mistake, bought something, and after 2 years said, "Ye to main nahi hu, this is not me. Why did I buy that?" But more often than not, you'll have to go with your instinct. You'll have to say that this is me, and I can live with it. One more thing Jaiveer is very right is you need to get advice. Befriend galleries if you want to, but I'll be also very upfront in saying this, that galleries cannot be your best friend because they have a motive of selling you works. So they will advise you works, yes, sorry, I'm not talking about you, I'm talking about in a nutshell, especially expensive works. But their job is to sell you works, but that doesn't...
The ones that aren't selling.
Especially the ones that are not selling. Yeah, well, मेरे stock room में there's a nice work, I'll show you. But the fact is, but they are people who know their artist. So don't be scared to go up to Lakshmi and say, hey, tell me more about this guy. She will. That's the plan. I mean, the idea is that you at least know who the artist she's representing. And you're under no agreement to buy something before you leave. That's the best part. So do that. Ask questions, attend talks, of course, and go to museums to see where we stand. And believe it or not, within a year, you will know what to buy. Something which happened 2 years ago, this is more in the modern master segment, and I'll warn you, is there was a news in the market that somebody got duped of 16 point something crores, buying some Hussains and all of that. When you're going for top lot works, please get an advisor that you can trust, or buy works from auction houses, or a gallery that's been known to deal in modern masters. I think that's where the Indian market is getting murky because of valuations. You know, the most expensive painting now of Indian art is 118 crores, MF Hussain, that sold earlier this year at Christie's. So the valuation game has changed, and this is where the fake market will develop. So this is where you need special advisors to come on board. So just ask questions. Before I give it to Varunika, I respond to every single, like, I don't get people say, call me, and I'm so bored in life, I will call them. Yesterday I got a message and I don't know how to respond to it. I hope this is not going live, but I saw your photo, I liked it, can we meet up? And I'm like, all right, this should meet me or meet my work. I don't know, but I said, this sounds like fun. And believe it or not, I will go meet because that's what I like to do. But the fact is, I answer every single query on Instagram. People ask me if it's you or your media manager. I don't have a media manager. But that's how I've met amazing people who are collectors, who are dealers, who are advisors, and we all exchange notes before we end up buying or selling something. So
I think we need to swap Instagram handles for a while. You can very readily answer why. I've lived in Hyderabad for the past 43 years. It's the city that I grew up in. And I think these are some of the issues that I find with collecting in Hyderabad. I think people try to acquire works here. And I think the problem here is if somebody has a particular artwork, everybody wants it. Right? And I think, it's a very uniquely Hyderabadi thing. So try not acquiring artworks. Just come, spend time in the art world, meet people, have conversations. I think you will 100% discover what you like. Just take time with it, trust yourself. And like what Jaiveer and Amit said, there's a lot of information. Now, you don't need to go to the library to find books. There's so much information available online. You can have any book of any artist delivered to your doorstep. So take some time and engage with, something that you like. See what are the reasons why somebody is making it. Come for art fairs. Come for museum openings. Come to gallery openings. And I think everybody is, artists are so happy to get to talk about their work, So I think
artists also love it, by the way.
Yeah, we love it. We love it. It's just like, questions like, can you match a particular thing? Those kind of, questions on Instagram, those are really annoying. At least say something about who you are, or, I'm happy to call people back, but, just things like that, it's kind of rude. But otherwise, be normal. Yes, be normal. But if you're open to sort of friendships, conversations, you will find artists are extremely chatty people.
Yeah. Lakshmi, can I come in for 1 second?
Yes.
Yeah, sure. Because I want to say this since we've dashed gallerists a little bit.
Are you continuing to do that, or should I just take the mic away from you now?
I'm going to say the opposite, which is that I always say, particularly for contemporary art gallerists, in India, there are lots of easier ways of making money than being in the art world. Trust me, right? If somebody is running a contemporary art gallery, they really do it because they love the art world and they love art and they want people to have great works of art or what they think are great works of art in people's homes, right? So they are more than happy to have a conversation with you, right? They want to have conversations. As a matter of fact, most gallerists hate collectors. They're like, tumne to lena hi lena hai. I want to talk to the person who wants to get into it, right? So if you're a fresh entrant, you will in some ways be treated even better than us, which are known quantities who are going to buy, right? And a lot of younger galleries don't want to sometimes, they're like, but Jaiveer, you'll just buy it and put it in storage. No, at least if it goes to this person's house, it'll be hung on their wall. Right. So even if you're entering fresh into the market, in certain ways with contemporary, you will get treated really, really well. And they're all here to help you out, right? I mean, yes, there is a motive of sales. Always keep that at the back of your head. But there is also a motive of just being there for the love of the art. Otherwise, there are many other ways of making money in New India.
It's funny, we just spoke about this morning with me and Amit. We were talking about the same thing. I was like, I used to be an investment banker. The numbers were very different then, and the numbers are very different now. So he said the same thing. He's like, you're here for the passion, Lakshmi. Don't forget. I said, I know. I'm not forgetting. The numbers remind me every day. Basically, what you're saying is that there are no quick fixes. You need to read, you need to see, you need to talk, and that's how you train your eye. With that, so the three of them are jury members for a show that I do called Emerging Palettes, and where we invite artists to send in applications who have completed their masters in the last 4 years. And we, thanks to them and their efforts, we select about 10 to 12 artists from that group. So quickly want to ask each one of you, what are the 2 or 3 things that you look for when you go through that process? So Varunika, do you want to start?
So as an artist, what I really look at, not 2 to 3, I can't limit it to 2, 3 things, but what I'm really sort of attracted towards in an artist is originality of voice. There are a lot of young artists who feel like, okay, this is working right now, there's a market for this, so let me make this. But then there are some younger ones who are very sort of unafraid to follow their own voice, whether it's trendy or it's not trendy. So that is something that I really like. Then I really respect artists who take some time to learn the technique. Even if it's an unorthodox technique, I really respond to skill. So I think original idea, commitment to their practice and skill is what I really respond to in younger people.
So when I'm going through all those PDFs, the another thing I look at is how consistent those 5 or 10 works are. So when you look at all of these points, which of course all of us do, but there has to be some sort of continuity in thought process, and the same maturity should continue to have in at least 8 out of 10 works. I mean, of course, not every work can be similar. Artists do tend to go here and there to experiment. And I think for me, that's been very, very interesting to say, okay, this has been consistent. I think there's some, mental thought process happening. The work's, of course, original. The skill set is great. And if he's a printmaker, he's already got my vote because he's taken up a much more laborious process than doing something else. But yeah, so that's for me.
So it goes back into the same thing where I'll take a slight detour and say that that's something you should also look at what Amit said in collecting in general, is that you don't collect an artwork, you collect a practice. So look at the entire show of an artist. Look at what they've shown previously, right? I mean, there's always with emerging artists always going to be a punt because the data points are limited, right? Which is where your eye and your brain and your gut comes in. But look at the consistency. I much rather buy a good work of a great artist than a great work of a terrible artist, right? So, I mean, that's my personal way of looking at it. So look at the practice and sometimes, for example, without taking names because I'd see recordings. I see very young people get into abstraction and then like, ab kya, right? Like now what next, right? I mean, usually abstraction is a distillation of one's entire life into something, right? And so if you're doing abstraction at 25 or 27, what are you going to be doing at 70? Like I don't understand it. So those are the kind of things that I ask myself. And as Varunika said, are you really involved in the materiality of what you're using? I like non-traditional materials. I think I find it very interesting when there is mixed media and there is work which is being done. I've always liked textile art. Now at the risk of like now it's like trendy. So like Varunika and I were talking about a different artist today this morning and she said, I think I have to remove this because everybody has it now. And I said, yes, but we bought it first. so it's fine. We can have it, right? So yeah, just, and the moment if it reminds me completely of somebody else's work is when I put it aside. Right? And unfortunately, I think almost 6 out of 10 works when I'm looking at emerging artists are increasingly derivative. And that is, I think, a problem which I don't know, why it is, particularly in the Baroda school, I see this a lot. And there is a difference between homage and pastiche. And that's like, sorry, maybe that was the...
No, I think it's wonderful. It's absolutely right? You're saying idea, skill, looking at a long, looking at body of work, and then have you seen this before? And if you keep, and for me, and as a gallery, I am really drawn to the materiality, and that's why you would see even this show, the kind of materials that artists have used, and or the voice or the idea is very different, and that's why we have this show called Triloka. Any risks that that you have faced, or this is a question to, I guess, all three of you as collectors, have there been times when you thought you wanted to get it but you didn't get one piece of work and regretted it, or bought it because it was a very impulsive buy and then regretted it? So any stories?
About stories, but sorry, what was the first part? Say that again, sorry.
So what you passed over and regretted it, or what you bought because it was love at first sight, and then
I'll speak for myself. Collectors are hoarders. It's the idea of holding something and living with it. Earlier on in my life, I would say like, I want it right now. I just want it. I want it. I don't know why I wanted it. Maybe it was some validation that I required. It wasn't the work maybe. But I think now at this stage, what happens is I've let go of that FOMO. I'm not in any rat race to pick up the work if I see it. So I've changed my strategy. Is what I do is I love a work and I usually let it go. And I go back to the gallery second time or third time whenever I can. If it's still available and I still love it, I'll buy it then. So it's become a bit more discerning in terms of that spontaneity. Sometimes I had to put back because then there is no shortage of artworks today. The thousands of artists and you want to buy maybe hundreds of them. So this is one way of approaching that, okay, you can let it go. If it comes to you, it comes to you. If it doesn't, it doesn't. This is what a collector friend of mine told me. If it has to come to you, it will come to you. And I think
it's almost like dating. Yeah. Let them go, yeah.
But the story of the work I showed you, where Sobya Chashmawala, it was that. I had no idea there was a whole journey that the painting had taken on its own before it came to me. And I think it's manifestation, right?
Separate your collecting from your fix. A lot of us have a problem. We are not heroin addicts. We are buying. We're shopping addicts, right? Yeah. So it's we are shopping addicts, right? So a friend of mine, Nitin, actually, Bhayana, gave me this advice. He said, set your limit, 25,000 rupees or 50,000 rupees or 1 lakh rupees, depending on where you are. Less than that, buy it because you love it and it's your fix, right? You've got maine aaj kya liya, right? Beyond that, take your time, 24 hours, 48 hours, sleep on a work. And when you build a relationship with a gallerist, they'll hold that work for you for 48 hours, Right? If you come to Lakshmi and say, I really like this, but I need to sleep over this, she's not going to be like, no, buy it now. She's going to be like, okay, nothing, we'll hold it for around 48 hours, but let me know in 48 hours, right? So that relationship will develop with the gallerist over a period of time. I mean, you can't do that at an auction house, but you can do that with a gallerist, which is why I think the relationship that you will end up building with a gallery is very important. And sometimes, you know, like Jaiveer, I collect almost all their artists. It is not that because I like Priya or she's a friend, she is, but it's just that you will also kind of end up making friends with people or gallerists where your mental bandwidth will match with theirs.
I have a much smaller collection compared to both of them, and things have worked out slightly differently in my case, because if I like something, I can't collect it immediately. I have to work towards it. I have to go through my finances, see if I can afford it. And if I can't afford it, it works differently for me. So years ago, when I was a student at JNU, I went to this sort of a show at Lalit Kala of Gulam Sirs. And there was this 4 watercolors, and there was one watercolor in particular which showed Gandhi on a board, and it was a story of 2002, what happened in Gujarat. And I looked at that work, and I just couldn't take my eyes off it. And the guard just looked at me, and he's like, "You better not steal it." You know, it was like that intense. And for years, that work remained in my head to such an extent that if somebody said, "Okay, you know, sketch it out for us," and I could, you know, because I knew where the boat was from, where the image of Gandhi was from, where the crocodiles were from, where the city was. I could remember it exactly. And after many years, after about 7 years, I had a show at Vadera Gallery, and there were some sales, and they were supposed to wire the money to me. So I said, you know, just ask them if they have that work still with them. And I said, no, you know, what are you thinking about? No way they'll still have that fantastic work lying around. Somebody must have bought it by now. So I just waited and I waited and I waited, and that was my fault. I should have just written to them at least a day earlier than I did. But I did write to her, and I said, you know, may I ask if that work is available and what? I didn't even know if I could afford it. And I wrote to her, and she said, you know, had you written to me a day earlier, it would have been yours. We've consigned it to the Fika auction. And then I'm like, oh, it's gone. There's no way I can afford it. Then, you know, something again in me again said, you know, just give it a try. So I called up my gallery in Zimbabwe, and I said that, you know, this happened, and it's in the auction and in Zimbabwe. And my then gallery, Sucha Chandani, she loved auctions, and the pattern was like her thing. And she said, don't worry, tell me your, you know, upper limit, and I will go bid for it. But she says, first send me the image, because she had to approve of what I was bidding for. And I sent her an image, and she says, yeah, I approve. I'll go bid for it. And she went and she bid for it, and I got it. Oh, wow. Years later, you know, I walked into the art fair. I saw Yadena. Again, my galleries had, like, there was money coming in, and I knew my work sold. So I asked her, you know, very gingerly, you know, that Yadena sculpture, can I have it? And I thought she would say no, and she would be like, no, we have important buyers lining up, and, you know, it should go to somebody important, you know, just my artist. Not only did she give it to me, she gave me a discount, and she hand carried it to me. You know, so I think if you really like something, in my case this has happened, you know, things that I've really wanted, they've come home.
You bought a gulam from me as well.
Yes.
Yeah. So with that, I want to open up the, open up the discussion to all of you. Do you have any questions? Please let me know, and then, you know.
Before we take the question, I just want to, both of them have said something very important, that the relationship that you're going to make with your gallerist friends and all of that is very keen here. They'll pass on those, what Varunika said is very right, that sometimes even a gallerist is looking to find a home for a painting. It's just not about the commerce. You know, if they know that you're the buyer who's going to live with it, you're going to see it every morning and have a great day. I'm sure, I mean, if I ever open a gallery, that's the kind of romantic kind of approach I would be looking at, that, hey man, you know, take this work. Perhaps the museum can wait.
Happened to me yesterday. It's done, but I got a call, and said, within 10 minutes, you call me back, bro. Right? I mean, and so like I did, and I did. And he said, you've been asking me for this work for the last 4 years. I've got one on private sale. Come and have a look. I'm not sending a photograph. I said, okay. And said, if you want it, you can have it. And I'm like, let me look at it at least. Like, I have a line, you know that. I said, I know you have a line, and thank you very much for thinking of me. But that's it. I mean, that work can be placed. Doesn't need to call me. It'll be done in 5 minutes. I know of 4 friends who are willing to get that work ahead of me. Right? That's the other thing. Be careful of your friends.
Don't tell them what you're buying.
Don't tell them what you're buying.
So I think there's a question in the audience.
Hi, I'm Dr. Kamla. You told me that in 1 year you will learn what paintings are and what artists are. I'm coming here to Lakshmi's gallery when Ramni auntie was there from 20 years. Still, I don't have an eye for art, but I've met all the artists. For me, as she said, Hyderabadis, we all want which is pleasing to the eyes. For me, if you ask me, I don't know the artist's name, Arpan. That sort of painting doesn't please me. But something which is colorful like this, which is very nice. When I get up in the morning, I need to have a positive aura around and in the house. I look for those things. But now, after knowing Lakshmi so well, now I'm trying to learn and buy art. So, as a beginner, what do you tell me? Like, do I go by the name, or, do I go by, what I like with my heart? Or, I don't know whether the artist is big or small. Seriously, I don't know. But as you said, if I want to sell it later, am I going to get my money back?
Okay. Can I start with this? Because there are lots of layered questions in this, right? Number one, of course, you should buy what you love, right? But you have to ask yourself, why do you love it? Do you love it because you've seen it in Pinky Reddy's house, or do you love it because you love it? Right? Okay. Right. I'm very, very blunt about these things, right? Okay. Why do you love it? Right? I mean, if you watch Devil Wears Prada, right, and goes back to the cerulean, right? Where does the love start from, right? I mean, that is a question you need to kind of ask yourself, right? And if you still love a beautiful decorative work, and there's nothing wrong with the word decorative, I think sometimes we use it pejoratively, go ahead and get it. That's one part. The second part is art as an investment, right? The only thing that I say is, over a period of time, earlier I used to be much more like Amit and be like, don't think about it, right? But since the figures even for contemporary are going a little bonkers and it is becoming more and more expensive, one does have to now kind of think about how do you play the game, not in the sense of, oh, every work you'll buy you'll appreciate. So the two things. One is trust your gallerist. If you have a good gallerist and the gallerist is putting in the effort, that is how are they plugged into the ecosystem? Are they doing fairs? Are they putting the works in museum shows? Are they doing all of that? So that then becomes important. The chances improve. Buying contemporary art, and I don't know whether Lakshmi like me saying this or not, is like a bit like buying a car. It depreciates by 30% the day you get it into your house. Okay. But 1 out of 50 cars is going to be a vintage car which is going to go for 400 times what you paid for it. Right? So now that is about, not everything that you buy is going to appreciate. Now that one Raza has paid for all my mistakes, multiple of them. Right? Okay. So that is so it is a bit like VC investing, right? Venture capital investing and art investing is similar in that way. You take a kind of punt across the board. You also take a punt on things that you think that you really love. But again, what is the emotional return on it? If you just want RNA to make money, you're in the wrong business. Go buy stocks, right? But if you're just like, okay, fine, I don't want to be stupid with my money, then there are many strategies of good galleries, good artists, looking at the body of work, etc. But again, question yourself, why do I like something? Do I like it because other people like it? Do I like it because I really appreciate it? Or do I like it because I think it's going to go up in pricing, right? Why do I like a work? Question yourself. A lot of us don't question our own taste. Why do we act in the way that we do?
Just to add to that, I think if you're looking at investing, nothing has proved like done really as good as gold, right? Buy gold. Forget about art, because I think living with the artwork is investment itself. Right? I have so many artworks which I know, like, batchmates. Even today, Jaiveer looked at a large embroidery and he said, I've never come across this artist, because I said, no, he's given up making art. He's teaching now. I know it'll never sell, but I have it over my bed. I love it. And it's impacted my life. When I wake up and I look at it, and there's like small mirrors, so when I move across my room, it's almost like, small jugnoos flying. And it just gives me like the sense of relief. There are other small works. Again, I know they're very small works, maybe we'll never appreciate, but when I have them, I feel less alone. Because I know, there are these artists, they think like me, so I'm not only alone. They also bothered with what's happening in the world. So living with art is also a form of investment. It changes you slowly. It changes your home life. Your kids will ask different questions. You will have visitors that will spark interesting conversations. And, these are things which, can't be tangibly measured in terms of money. So, when you're collecting, don't always go with the idea of investment. Maybe even, you might find something in a fair, like a craft fair, a small piece of textile or a small toy. If you like it, just buy it. It will change your life. Is that going to get you any money in 10 years? Most probably not.
Extension of the earlier question, actually. This is like, I'm very happy, very nice to hear all of you. Jaiveer, Amit, Varunika, and Lakshmi, thanks for curating this, because it has opened my eyes to many things. I don't even know anything about art. But definitely I understand that whenever we talk, it really boils down to, how much it would appreciate most of the time. But when I hear you all talking about the personal journey of art and living with it forever, so I keep wondering then, how are the icons created in this? Where you only think of personal journey and then, there is a market where you know that there is appreciation and all that.
I'm going to talk from the point of view as an art advisor right now, because that's what I do for a living. So art appreciates in generations. If you look at all the kind of price points and all of that, people who bought the Gaitondes in the 70s and all are getting their benefits now. If you evaluate that with the point of gold, you would realize that art appreciates slower than gold or real estate or something like that. So as Varunika said, when in the 50s and the 60s, there were patronage, which was for the love of art. They were not going, do you think in 1961, there was a guy thinking in 40, 60 years, I will get 20 times of painting returns on my painting. They were not even going to live that long. So they were really buying because they had homes to fill up maybe. They had nice, they had aesthetics. They had maybe traveled overseas even that time to see museums. And I think that makes a difference. But now, one thing I always ask a collector when they come to me is, A, a budget, and B, do you want to sell it in 1 year, 5 year, 10 year? I need to know that. If they say any of the above, I tell them not to buy art only, because they will not get any. 10 year is also an investment, by the way. They're saying that 10 saal mein I want my money to grow this much. There is no guarantee that the money will grow in art. There is no guarantee unless it's a master. And when you're spending money in the master today, nothing is less than, let's say, 50 lakh or for a small watercolor. But then you need people to advise you if this is the right watercolor. There are 3 razas coming in Pando's auction, for example. All of them are estimated at 10 to 15 lakhs, which is on 25th of this month. And so we have done a research on all 3 of them as an art advisor. When I went to my client, he wanted to buy one. And I have told him that, listen, these are the points that I'm ready to bid up to. And he isn't going to hold them for 10 years. As he's told me that don't think I'm going to sell them for 10 years. I said, in 10 years, your money is safe. You may not get a profit. Off that X 20% an annum. Whoever tells you that is also just faking it. There is no percentage return. But I just said that for 10 years, what are you going to do with it? Storage or wall? He said, wall in my bedroom. I said, by the end of it, I'll tell you, you will not sell it. Why do you think I put everything I own on my walls? Because the moment it's on my wall, it's very difficult for me to pull it off and sell it.
You refused to sell me your work.
I refused.
Now it's on the wall.
Yeah, so basically, I go through those phases when the work is lying on the floor and safai nahi ho rahi ghar ki. Let's put it that way. Okay, I'm not able to move around. My dog is running around, whatever. So one day I said, Jaiveer, and this is an artist which was in my presentation, and so probably she's only made 2 of them. One is with her, one is with me because of our friendship. And I said, okay, Jaiveer, I don't want this to go in the market. If you like it, take it. He also, I know that he's collecting really thoughtfully. It's not going to resell it. Those things are very important for me. And but then after 6 months, when he gets back to me, I said, now I've nailed it on the wall. Now how do I give it to you? So now I'm living with it. So you have to catch me in that phase when I'm also willing to let go. But the fact is, that's how people live. Art is such an emotional investment, you know, and even to just come back to you, what you were saying, please buy what you love. I have Ravi Verma prints on my wall as well because, you know, I still love the way the embroidery was done on those paperworks. I still have a textile work hanging because this is my family lineage. My aunt is a quilter. I've started buying a quilter now, you know, and for me, every work has this story. And believe me, I was buying for my daughter. I said, I don't understand stocks. I don't understand real estate. I really suck at business, but I understand my art. And I know that by the time she's 35 or 40, which is another 30 years from today, this art will have value. That much I know. It's a generational wealth, you know, and believe it or not, at 18, she's going to inherit it. I've already planned it out. When at 18, I tell her, what do you want? Take it. I'll block it. You don't want it. I'll sell it. And, you know, it's your call now. But the fact is, I know that the way I'm training her, she will not let go of anything. So that's how art is. It's part of you. It's part of your life. It's not real estate, which in Knowledge City, a building will come up and you'll get money tomorrow. It's not like that.
I'll take one step.
You want Lakshmi?
No. I'll say this because I think this will appeal to all of you guys here who are looking at it from the investment perspective. Again, for art in general, I can't say about A work or B work or A artist or B artist. So if you look at an average New York home, if you go to a New York home which is worth $5 to $8 million, if the apartment's worth $8 million, you'll end up, the apartment will have around about $25 million worth of art in it. And now what's happening is that, so India has a long way to play catch up, right? If you go into an average home in Hyderabad, that's not going to be the case, right? The home is going to be more expensive than the artwork that's in it, and the car also, and the furniture, and probably the handbag. So there is that catch up which will happen. So this is something which has happened the world over, right? So in terms of the art market eventually generationally appreciating, we are still playing catch up, right? So that will happen. Now, whether it's going to be A work or B work or C work, that is something which is very, very difficult to predict, right? But if you have the right advisor and you use your eyes, you use your brain and you use all of that, possibly, and you build a collection, if you're not entirely stupid, you will still have 4 or 5 works which will cover up everything else, right? As long as you kind of get the right advice, use your eyes and your ears, listen, see, buy, and do it in depth. You can't buy 2 works of art and say, oh, I bought this for 5 lakhs and I bought that for 4 lakhs, but now I can't sell it. That is not, I mean, even if you're investing, you don't do that in stocks, right? You don't buy one Yes Bank and then be like, and Jet Airways and be like, ab to dono collapse ho gaya, when the market is going up, right? So like that, it's that, right? So if you're doing it in that perspective, then you also have to play the game differently. And then you have to play the game with a lot of money, right? So which is why I'm saying that start collecting for the joy of collecting. Start collecting because you want works of art. Start collecting for the conversations that they're going to spark. We're sitting here today having this conversation, all 4 of us, with all of you because of the joy that art brings us, right? I mean, none of us are being paid to be here, right? We've all flown in. Varunika's taken time off her practice. She works 14 hours a day. Amit is constantly traveling. I run a business. All of us are here to have this conversation with you for the love of Lakshmi, of course, but also for the love of art, right? And that's that. I mean, the friends that you will make from the art world. I mean, Varunika and I met through that, and she's one of my closest friends. The joy those friendships are going to get you is worth more than any kind of appreciation. I mean, that's that. I'll leave it at that.
I know you want to say, but I want to add this from very early on about art investment, and then this is $1 million story. So let's talk about money now. This is 2008, 2007 and 8. Markets are booming. Everybody's bought art. Price of artworks are going by the minute they're going up. It was that bad. And there was an artist called Subodh Gupta, who still is, of course, one of the most important contemporary artists. That time the dollar was 45, and I had this canvas which I had to sell. I was 27 or 28, and my boss was like, let's sell this. It's time to let go. It was valued at $1 million as of that time when the dollar was 45. Within 1 week, that same painting was valued at $100,000. And just saying that, when you're looking at contemporary art, there's also always an idea of bubble.
Not even at $1 million now.
Yeah, the painting still hasn't come back to 1 million. The painting still hasn't come back to 1 million after 2008. We exited at 1 million, but within a week, the market crashed. We were lucky. But art investment, sometimes you need to know when to let go and when not to let go. Whoever is still holding on to a canvas of their artist would probably, they would have still bought it cheaper because the market was a bubble. It was really pushed by some players also, and everybody made their money that time. But then this is where you need to be very careful. So when you're spending more than a certain amount, seek advice. Otherwise, buy what you love. As simple as that.
There's one more question. Oh.
Hi guys, I was a little late, but very key insights. Well, it's a very simple question. Do you think the space where we live makes the art look different? When I say where I live, might make the art look different. The aesthetic of the space, the lighting, etc., etc.
See, an artwork, when you see it in, say, a gallery kind of an environment, it's a professional hang. When I mean by a professional hang, what Jaiveer is saying that the gallerist and the artist will talk about how to frame it, how to install it. Do you think this was done just like that? There was a lot of thought, this took also 2 days for us to install. And then the lighting. Now, a home and a gallery are two different things. I don't expect you to make a gallery at home, and please don't. A home is a home. The lighting changes. Are you placing it next to the window looking at the water, for example, in Jaiveer's house? Or are you putting it in a living room where maybe your furniture is kind of inherited from your parents? Does it fit there? So there are many factors of how an artwork can change with the space you inhabit. More importantly is the aura that you have already existing in your space, because that has the artwork has to adapt to it. I'm sounding romantic, but the artwork has to adapt to the aura of your space. Sometimes, and it has happened to me for sure, that when I bought something, when I've gone home and put it, I'm like, what the hell is this going on? Why am I not enjoying it as much as I did in that space? Galleries sometimes tend to be something like a chapel or something, like a temple, if you want to call it, because you are in this spiritual place where you're all by yourself looking at art. At home, you have many other things. At home, you're also, your mind is occupied with life. I don't think when you're coming to a gallery, you're carrying the burden of your daily work or what you're going through. I go to art spaces to let go of all that pain, maybe. So I think all those things matter for me when I take the work home. And then I try to match that vibe and live with it. And sometimes I disappoint myself as well. So this is the way I look at your question. The wise man will have other things to add.
I have a few words of caution, which I try to tell everybody that I meet. These are mostly technical things, but if you have a watercolor or textile work, please do not hang it where there's direct sunlight coming in. The work will fade. Artworks are not like forever pieces. They do get altered with time, pollution, sunlight. If you have dampness in your walls, or generally like it's been really raining in Hyderabad, get yourself a dehumidifier. It's worth it. Or get silica gel packs, just paste it with a masking tape behind your works. Artworks are something that require care. So little things, I think, these are some things that we should talk about. If you get mold on your work, it's very difficult to restore it, and mold spores spread. So, when you're hanging works at your home, just be a little aware of these things. It's not tough. It just requires, a little mindfulness and, just reading up a little bit. And, it's easy to get silica gel packs, even if you don't want to invest in a dehumidifier or not hang something which is sensitive to light, in direct sunlight. So that's something that I thought it's important to add.
Okay, one last question, because there's dinner and drinks after.
Okay, thank you. Because I have a confession to make. I'm neither a collector, like many of you in the audience are, or an artist. But I found this conversation to be really, really rich, and the opportunity to understand how you experience professional select art is fascinating. But I'm intrigued by a simple question. When the final decision comes that you decide you want to buy it, do you find yourself kind of tending to buy an art that you understand, that resonates with your view of life easily? Or is it an art that you look at it first, I don't get it. I have to talk to Lakshmi. I have to find out a little bit more about what the artist did when he was young. Is it a quick fit that you're looking for? Or it's kind of the excitement of the chase? Finally, I understood it. That's why I want that piece of art.
It's both. It depends, right? It's a difficult question to answer because I was just thinking, for example, there's certain artists whose practice I've only understood as I have gotten older, right? Madhvi Parekh is one of them, which I just found. I'm like, what the hell is this, right? And the more I've read, the more I've seen, the more I've understood it. It's this constant debate in one's head is how do you cut out the noise while still listening, right? Because you have 20 people in your ear whispering, oh, you must look at this one. Oh, but you must look at this one. Do you know the director of the Tate came and then they went here and then they said this was the new next best thing, right? I mean, there's this like constant chatter, right? So the chatter is also important, but how do you kind of like, that's something which I constantly deal with. And at the end of the day, you need to ask yourself a very simple question. Do I love it and can I afford it? And if the answer is yes and yes, acquire it.
Yeah, so I mean, it's actually both, as Jaiveer said. There are days which, I mean, depending on the budget, if it can be spontaneous, why not go for it, right? But if I discover, like, if I'm looking at art now, and there are so many new artists that probably I cannot even find in the market, but sometimes I've come across something, I said, this is nice. Let's find more about the artist before I take the plunge, even if it's a 20,000 rupee. I think in the last 5 years, I would have done close to 500 Zoom calls with artists. And especially I do a Zoom call a day with an artist that I want to know more about. And I think for me, that's what drives me. That what is out there. This keeps me also young in a way that, oh, this 25-year-old is doing something. Now, there's an artist in Hyderabad who I first saw 2 years ago at SNU. First year's a master's. Moment I fell in love with it. Moment I saw it, I said, wow. You know, and the best part is after 2 years, I still love it. And I still haven't bought it. But
what happened to me, then you see him in a gallery, that's how to buy your
no,
patient.
so the reason is when I reached out to her and I said, hey, listen, you know, I like this, blah, 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 I'm coming to Hyderabad. She said, oh, I have a big show in Delhi, and those totally I was bypassed. Like Varunika said, patronage for me is not about, say, call me, I want to buy this. That's completely wrong. There are ethics one should follow of approaching an artist. And the moment I introduced myself, I said, this is what I'm looking to do. Can I have a studio visit, please? I'm coming to Hyderabad. And it was happily declined for whatever reason, because I'm not a gallerist. I'm a nobody in a way. But the fact is, in 2 years, I still like the work, and I'm still going to pick it up at some point because now I understand her practice even better. Because while she's been ignoring me, I've been reading up on her. I've been researching her. I've been trying to follow her, stalk her on Instagram. Let's put it this way, to understand where she's coming from. But there are days when I picked up the work that I showed acknowledgements, because I was saying that, hey, this is me. Okay, 10,000 rupees, fine, but it's still on my wall. So that's how it's both. It's always both. Sometimes you jump at it because, you know, it is there. Sometimes the chase is fascinating. As an auctioneer, for me, the chase is fascinating. I chase paintings, and I chase paintings for clients now, and it's amazing. There's a Sabawala that I saw in Hyderabad on my last trip. And for a normal person, they will say it's a fake painting. Within a second, I knew it's original. Within 3 months, I had done my research and I found it was published thrice and exhibited in Birmingham. And I said, that's my chase. And didn't get it. That's a different story, but that's what I like to do, you know.
With that, I think we're going to end this session. So, just to conclude, I guess it's not about having the perfect eye. It's not about limitless budget. It's really about curiosity, courage, and really, you know, taking the plunge and learn, read, come to me. I'm here always. I can help you through that process as well. So with that, Jaiveer, Amit and Varunika, thank you so much for taking the time out, coming here, talking to us.